Hi.
I have to say, I'm enjoying retirement.
Well, your artwork is beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm
I'm
so
finally
impressed.
I'm taking classes.
Oh,
I've
that's
never
neat.
done that.
Well, it's amazing. You're definitely very talented. Where are you taking classes?
The Springfield Art Museum.
Oh, really?
There's Zoom classes.
How
They're
neat.
they're really reasonable.
That's great.
So how are you enjoying retirement?
I'm busy. I'm loving it. I'm enjoying being a grandmother. I haven't been able to paint because I had a bum shoulder, but I'm hoping. Look at this. I'm holding it over my head.
Who was your surgeon? Was this the guy at Cooley Dickinson?
No, this was we went to Mass General. The surgeon that did. Rob also tore his. Well, he's torn both of his rotator cuffs, but it was his last one he did at Mass General. So we like that guy. So it was fine.
That's where the family goes.
Where you go, right?
Yes. Well, I'm not.
It's a
I get
little
to be
weird. It's a little weird having surgery in the pandemic because, they just drop you off at the door.
Oh, right.
And then he just shows up a few hours later. And so, it's just like a little unnerving. Usually when you go to have surgery, you have somebody there to ID the body.
And when you wake up and you're throwing up and stuff.
Or to authorize pulling the plug or whatever it is that they have to do. So yeah, I didn't have that.
God. It's done. It's done. Yeah. I hope he's getting. Have you been vaccinated yet?
Yeah, I got vaccinated.
Yeah, I just had my second on Saturday.
Yeah, we haven't kind of figured out how life is going to get more normal now. I don't know. It'll be good to get everybody in the family vaccinated.
I was lucky because everybody but Julia's partner are totally vaccinated. So we had them over for Passover.
Oh, how nice.
It was really fun.
Oh, how nice.
But they're loud. It's like we haven't had that much.
Oh, I missed, we missed Passover last year, and then this year with my shoulder, I'm usually the one who does all the cooking and I can't do it with so we're just gonna wait, and maybe we're gonna do a sort of modified Zoom Seder later this week.
We do what we can.
That's right. They won't get to eat my horosis, but.
Oh my God. We got, yes. We Zoomed a couple.
Everybody's got their family recipes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and traditions. Yeah, but it felt kind of normal, that just.
Nice.
Okay,
that sounds great. That's great.
Yeah, I hope it keeps this way. And I don't get to be a grandparent, but I picked my great nephew up from school at Crocker Farm 3 days a week, and
oh, well, that's fun.
It's so much. 5-year-old.
How old is he? How old is he?
5.
Oh, that's great.
He just talks and talks and talks.
That's wonderful.
I know.
Yeah.
He snuggles with me a little bit. This like we're
great.
feeling a little safer now. It's okay.
That's great.
I've had my shots.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to say who I am. Wait a minute.
Yeah, well, Audrey takes up my granddaughter. Audrey takes up a lot of space in our lives, which is really a blessing. That's good.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd like some more of them. I feel like, okay, somebody do something else, right?
Rafi's not, I don't think.
No.
They're kind of buried with animals. But
okay.
Julia said, "Don't worry, Mom." It's like, okay.
Okay, eventually. Give her some time. She's like, how old are they now? I can't even keep track.
They're 31.
Are they? Oh my God. The other day I was thinking, now, how old is Sarah? Is Sarah 30? She couldn't be 30.
She's only 31.
What?
She's 27, right?
She's 27 forever. But I'm glad I didn't ask her how old she was.
Yes.
That's very funny.
You know, don't do that. Look it up somewhere. You have it recorded somewhere.
That's right. I know. I can't keep track of them all. Well, Leia, my baby's 27.
Oh my God. Where is she? Is she in this area? Is she far? Is she close?
She is in Connecticut, but she got into grad school at UMass, and so we don't know. She's got a boyfriend. We don't know where she's gonna where she's gonna be, but theoretically starting grad school at UMass in the fall.
That sounds normal.
Yeah. One of them will go to grad school at least.
Yeah, Rafi's wife has. That's
It's a different generation. It's a little harder.
oh yeah, the
days.
money.
The money, right? It was a lot
Yeah.
cheaper back then, a lot easier financially.
Yeah, I don't even want to know how much she owes. I'm sure it's a small house. And we were lucky.
Yeah,
We were lucky, our generation,
yeah, that's for sure.
the boomers.
So you're just waiting for your, are you starting at 5:45 or are you waiting for a quorum? You're waiting for a quorum? Oops, Michael.
Sorry, you couldn't hear me. Yes, we posted 5:45.
Oh,
That's what.
I know, I didn't quite believe it, but
Yeah, it's true.
that's
hi,
fine.
Michael.
So that's interesting. I had muted it, and of course, the recording didn't pick up any of your conversations while it was muted.
Oh, good.
Oh, phew.
That's a good thing.
I'm just catching up. Children, catching up children.
That was sounded like a nice family conversation.
Yeah. It's hard to believe that we were that age. I was Rafi's age when we went to Peru to get him.
Wow.
And I thought I was grown up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little weird when your kids get to be older than you were when they were born. So, or like, geez.
Yeah. Oh, there's Melissa. She's back in school.
Yes, I am. And now, oh shoot. I have to bring all of you back up on my screen. Hold on one second. It's funny, Becky and I were talking and we started at 7:45. Becky, make my laptop the host, not my phone.
Oh,
Not my
okay.
video. Yeah, because that's on my phone.
Okay.
Okay, let me just attach it here.
Just
All right.
1 second.
Okay. Bye, guys.
You all right?
I'm fine. It's just the phone. The phone's fine. I just have to stick it right in one spot and it stays usually. Don't breathe. All right. Let me bring up my agenda.
Oh, sorry, I lost my Zoom screen.
It disappeared on me too, Becky, today.
Ay, ay, ay. Oh, here it is. Sorry. Okay. And the laptop is well labeled.
Yep, the laptop is just for the functions of Zoom. I'm not as adept with it with the phone.
Yeah, there you are. I wish we could order you know, the screens on Zoom.
I know, I wish you could too, and I don't think you can.
No, I don't think you can.
Or I wish you could change the size of the blocks so you could fit more on a screen, and I don't know that you can do that either.
I don't think so.
No.
Oh.
Okay.
I
All
do
right.
have to say, yeah, I would love to have like a screen of cats on Zoom. They are fascinating.
No,
They do come on quite a bit.
Yes,
at least
Michael
in
has
mine.
quite a cat. Yes,
Shall we call ourselves to order?
yes.
Okay. All right. Let's call ourselves to order and review the agenda. Becky, is there anything on the agenda we should move? I know I had a couple of things that we were going to move.
I think I'm good outside of, yeah, I think the other things should be fine.
Okay.
And
All right.
I think the annual report I wrote, I don't know if that has to be accepted by the whole select board. I sent
Do
that
you want
out.
to add the conversation?
Just add that in, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna write that down. Don't let me forget that. Okay. And there are two things that we're gonna forego for tonight. We're going to push off the appointment of the Conservation Commission until our next agenda. And we have to talk about the working group responses and such. Although, Becky, I think we can save that till 6:20 or 6:05 when we were going to talk about that, right?
Well, there are some people that might have come for that issue, so
Yep, no,
maybe-
that's fine. We can.
maybe let
yeah.
them know now that it's not happening tonight.
Okay, sure. And the select board will talk about it a little bit more, but we had very few responses to the announcement we put out a week ago, and it's come to our attention from feedback that Town Announce comes up with a big orange block that warns you that the email could be dangerous. So we're working on fixing that, and we wonder if Town Announce emails aren't being read by a broader group of people because of that orange block. So we're working on getting that removed. So we're going to announce it again, potentially in 2 more places, to see if we can get some more responses, or to make sure that it was widely read by the community.
Okay.
So
she wasn't clear. I think it was with the police group.
yes, it was about the police working group.
Okay.
Leslie, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I should have said that. I did mean not to say that. So we encountered that issue potentially with this. So we just want to make sure that the entire community had the chance to read that email and that announcement. And we'll be putting it in a couple of other places, and the select board will talk about that at 6:05 and where we might want to do that and how we might want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to public comment a minute early. Does anyone have any public comment? Raise your hands. I see 1, 2, 3. Michael.
Okay, well, I came into this meeting concerned. Now I'm even a little more concerned. So I missed the beginning of last meeting and I just watched the video, but I want to raise 2 things about the conversation about the Concom discussion last time. To me, it seems it was totally inappropriate. And it was a reason, if you look at the reasons to go into executive session based on open meeting law, reason number 1 is to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than the professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of complaints against or charges against the public officer, employee, staff member, individual. So the discussion about Don seemed like it was very much about character and therefore very inappropriate. I don't think it was actually necessary, but if you were going to do it, it needed to be in executive session. And I'm a little surprised that rather than Becky as town administrator warning you that had to be the case, she was actually contributing that information. And in terms of the reference about trespassing with me and Miriam, as volunteers, we're technically employees of the town. And so as well, talking about complaints and charges against us should have been done in executive session. So it was totally inappropriate that that happened. And I think given that, I would ask that that gets struck from the minutes because it shouldn't be publicly available and it never should have been discussed publicly. The other thing I would say for executive session, the process is such, if you're going to be talking about someone, you have to give them adequate notice and they're allowed to have legal representation at the meeting. So none of that happened. So it's pretty egregious. And I think apologies are in order. The other part is concerning is the tradition is that the select board accepts and make appointments based on the recommendation of committees. When I was on the select board, I actually asked about that several times, both in the June when we do all of the appointments and then when we do special appointments during the year. Over the course of the time, I had questions and I was explicitly told we have to respect the votes of the committees. In fact, I had a conversation with Becky within the last 2 months about someone and Becky basically said, the committee voted for them, so we have to appoint them. So the impression I got from all of you and the way Becky was presented it was your decision. And technically it is your decision. But if all of a sudden you start deciding that you're going to make a decision to appoint one person, not another, it opens up the floodgates and that whole entire list that you look at in June that automatically approve goes out the window. So I don't think the select board overturning the vote of a committee is appropriate given the way that the town is operated. And so the additional concern is if you're putting off the appointment today because you want to have more consideration and you want to fact find more, I think it's not in line. It's from what I could tell, the committee voted and you're supposed to respect and honor the decision of the committees because they know what's best. Whether it's trespassing or personality, it's up to the committee. And I would just say on the planning board, you know, we had a conversation about me being trespassed and what that meant. That's a committee discussion. It's not for you guys to decide. And then the last thing I would just say is to follow up an email from last week. I would appreciate the select board putting on the agenda at some point in the very near future, something about the timeline for the town administrator's contract renewal so that it's publicly discussed and people know what the process is. So that's all for me.
Well, Michael, we're gonna do the process for all of the contracts. We won't be singling out anyone.
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. Miriam.
Thank you. I know that you're tabling the discussion about the Conservation Commission, and I sent an email to the select board, but just for the benefit of others who are present and to put it on the record, I would like to just read the email that I sent to you. And I want to make it clear that I am writing as an individual, not representing the Conservation Commission or the Historical Commission. Dear Select Board,
Is that how your email was structured, that it was you as a person
yes,
rather than?
Yes, it was. Did you get the email?
Yes.
Yeah, I did make that clear in the email. Dear Select Board, I'm following up on the discussion at the last meeting regarding the appointment of Don Wakaluk to the Conservation Commission. I came away from that meeting feeling very troubled by the ad hominem attacks being made by the town administrator against a volunteer and employee. Several accusations were made about Don's character. Some comments were vague allusions to years-old issues. Some of the complaints were hearsay with no facts. I heard nothing at that meeting that should disqualify Don's appointment. It was also painful to watch someone being publicly humiliated for no discernible reason. I left the meeting feeling very concerned about the possibly chilling effect of that discussion on future potential volunteers. Unlike other town committees, the Conservation Commission is tasked with oversight and enforcement of state and local wetlands laws. This is a challenging and complex responsibility. I have personally needed to educate myself by reading and attending seminars about wetland science, forestry practices, ecology, and regulations in order to function on this commission. The Conservation Commission needs knowledgeable members who are willing to make a long-term commitment. This is especially true as all of our current commissioners are relatively new. As a matter of policy, I believe committees should have a say in recommending who is to be appointed to them. We are in the best position to evaluate what we need and who would be a good fit. I also do not believe it is appropriate to make an appointment decisions based upon vague or petty arguments about likability or past interpersonal disagreements. Appointments should be based upon ensuring that the committees have what they need to do the town business. If an appointed volunteer proves to be unable to work collaboratively, there are mechanisms to address this. The Conservation Commission has a policy of requiring candidates to attend several meetings first to demonstrate their commitment and ensure that they understand the responsibilities. Don has been attending Concom meetings for months. He's been courteous, professional, and very helpful. He has an impressive knowledge of wetland science and regulations. It's hard to understand why the town would not welcome his involvement. The Concom voted unanimously to support him at our last meeting on March 25th. I hope you will put us, this was the second vote we had about him. There was a vote previously where we voted to support him by a majority, but not unanimously. On the 25th, we voted unanimously. I hope you will put aside the recent allegations and appoint this very qualified and worthy candidate. Please note that I'm writing here as an individual and not on behalf of the Concom. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Is there anybody else who had any public comment? Jeff, go ahead.
Thank you. I have two. I'll try to keep them brief. One sort of positive and one is, I don't know, questioning critical. First one is about the highway department's job on Baker Road. I'd just like to offer kudos to their work there. I'm the only person who lives on that portion of the paved road, and it was a well-done project. They worked hard on it. They cooperated with me. They essentially did the things I asked them to do, and the road turned out very well. It's not expanded. It's just like it was, just paved, and very nice job. So. Hats off to the highway department, and I hope somebody can get this message to them.
Becky, can you forward that to them?
I certainly will.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jeff.
You're welcome. Now, my second one concerns town announce, and this town announce was not the police study one, which I did receive here. I don't know whether I pulled it out of my spam or not, but I did receive it. This was another one from Kristen Burgess, and it was right after the Atlanta tragedy. And it seemed to me that was, I don't know, kind of not germane to Shutesbury, not really useful information for town announced. It almost seemed like it was more promotion of the Shutesbury Police Department, virtue signaling. I don't know what. It just it didn't seem to be something that should be going on town announce. I couldn't tell what the purpose was of that, other than possibly building political support for the police department in Shutesbury, and or support for Kristen as the eventual police chief. And if that really was what was behind it, I don't think it's an appropriate use of town announce. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan, I saw Susan. There she is.
Hi, I had no intention of speaking until I heard Jeff's comments, and I just want to share my response to Kristen's letter. I was like many of us, we were horrified by what happened, particularly if we have people in our lives that are Asian American. And I really, really appreciated her message, and it kind of validated my feelings around what a police person can share in energy. So, but thank you, Jeff. I respect your point of view, but totally disagree.
Cool.
And that's what we can do, right? We can agree and disagree with each other, but friendly. Leslie. You have to unmute. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, I just did. Thank you. I wasn't planning on speaking either, but I also wanted to kind of second Miriam's letter as a resident. I'm not on any committees, but I've worked with Don in my forest, and I have to say, we would be so honored and so in great hands if we had Don on that conservation committee. I used to work with Bruce Davidson, who's passed away from the Ceres community, and I think that Don's knowledge of the forest is outstanding, and we would be so lucky to have somebody who really understands the forest leading our conservation committee. So I just want to support what Miriam said. And thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Does anybody else have any public comment? Okay, all right.
Melissa,
let
can
me
I
go
ask you a
back.
question?
You can always ask a question.
Thank you. Just since the first topic was supposed to be the Concom, will you at least address why it's getting pushed off?
Yeah, I felt that there was too much emotion surrounding it after the last meeting, and didn't think the discussion could be as fruitful as you know, as it could be, and actually the public comments have solidified that. So I think we'll just wait until the next time to discuss it when we are a step away from all the emotion from the last meeting. Did that answer your question, Michael?
It does.
Okay.
I don't.
We have to
I
look.
don't agree, but yeah.
Oh, you don't have to agree, but
Yeah, I
we do
agree.
have-
Thank
we
you.
do have to take. We do have to take. When something is so emotional, we do have to take a step back and let that be, and be able to make a decision without that in it. So I think the discussion would be much better, much more fruitful, much more, well, just better in general when we don't have that there, you know. So that's why. Okay. Shall we move on to receiving the planning board associate member bylaw? And I'm just going to bring that up here on my computer so I can see it. All right. So I do know we have to vote to accept it or to receive it. Does anyone have any questions? I see that Jeff and Jeff and Michael are still here from the planning board. Rita or April, did we have any questions or such on that?
No, I was good.
Good. Good, April. Okay. Do I hear a motion to receive the planning board members bylaw?
So moved. And I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Carol, I.
Aye.
Make these O'Neill, aye. And now we're already on to the police working group. As I said, when we first opened up we weren't quite sure from feedback on town announce if with 1 week notice, we did receive a few responses, but wondered because of that orange block that accompanies those emails. Becky, you said that you're working on having that removed or such, so we won't have those as part of our.
The WIB committee, I don't know. I think it is a major problem, but we got to figure out something. And until then, we'll try to use different avenues and get into this week's school newsletter.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And put up some signs around town and get it on the homepage of the website.
And you had regular newspaper?
Yeah, and I'm gonna call Scott Mroos back and see if he'll do a little blurb for us.
Okay, and Rita or April, do you have any other ideas of where we can put it to kind of get around this town announce issue so we can have a good response?
The only other avenue would be through code red, and that does not seem appropriate.
It's possible though. Because there's an email function there too. I don't know if, I'm not sure how many emails it actually will hit.
Would
what
you
do
use the
other
town
people
announce
think?
list?
I'm sorry?
Would you
Oh,
use the town announce list?
No, it's a different list, but it's also an email list that includes the phone numbers and cell numbers. So that, I'll give that a, if you guys think that's okay, I'll check with Walter. I think, I mean, we put trash announcements out and this is a bit more important than that.
True.
And
Fine
it
with
does
me.
impact everybody because everybody has the option of, you know, sending a letter, so.
Have we tested and Walter might be able to answer the question, have we tested the code red email option before?
Yeah, I always use it.
Okay,
Can't remember how many. I know the overall calls were disappointing, but I think there was at least about 250, 300 emails. And there's also the text messaging that might get through. So if I can condense it into a short message, it should be fine.
or just have them, is the announcements up on the website, so maybe check website for announcement. You know, as that condensed
Yeah,
version.
that's an idea.
Okay. Yeah, so do we want to give it until our next meeting again to see if we get more responses?
Yeah,
seems-
Rita,
Well,
or-
we're meeting next week, right? So are we talking?
not,
we're
we're, our
meeting
meeting
with the planning board.
on
Planning
April-
board.
on April 5th is only for the planning board. I mean, with the planning board, unless we want to meet early. We're already meeting at 5:30.
Yeah, no,
No.
that one is tough enough for me already. So, yeah,
No.
so the following week is
but give
that
us
would-
another couple
2
weeks.
weeks.
Yeah.
That would be the 13th.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll ask for them in by the 12th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
By noon. So we have time to read them if they're not,
Yeah.
Okay. And you use the same announcement, Becky. We don't need to rework it.
Okay,
Does that sound good? Okay.
great.
Okay. All right, so now we are, moving on to the review, the DOR meeting, DOER, I'm sorry, DOER meeting.
Okay, so Michael has written a wonderful report based on the questions he had been
Yep.
asking DOER that provoked the meeting. I have a shorter summary of the meeting, but why don't we start with Michael's report?
Okay. Michael, would you like to give us a run through?
Sure. So I would say it was a good meeting. It was intended to gather information from DOER. As you'll see, since people online don't have the memo, I'll just say there was like 5 or 6 people from DOER. Eric Stelzer, who's the director of the new Renewable Energy Division, sort of led it off for them, and they had both a legal counsel and an assistant legal counsel and some program people. So they had multiple perspectives. Elena Cohen from Joe Comerford's office was there, and then Rita, Becky, Deacon, and myself were present. I think the first thing we wanted to get a sense of, what was the public entity status. That was primarily what I had wanted to gather information from. That was the focus of this. And so the first thing was like, what was the intent of creating this? Because this was a new creation. It wasn't there at the beginning as SMART. And they did affirm that it was trying to help municipalities who wanted to develop solar. And the way it can work is it's either developments being either on private or public land, and then municipalities either owning or operating the facility. And so what AMP is currently proposing, they haven't seen before. In fact, in their mind, what they said was they were imagining that it would be used in a way where if a town wanted to build municipal solar for its own purposes, but didn't have enough land, that they could go find private land and then build a municipal facility supporting the town on private land. So that's how they envisioned this working out. So they never envisioned this operational agreement. And the other thing they said, which is that the owner of the facility the output has to be 100% to municipalities or other governmental entities. So that was also very interesting. So the whole idea of getting power should be going to the towns. The thing that came up, at a previous select board meeting was really one of the things I think I wanted to find out and we discussed was, AMP had presented that in order to be eligible for the SMART program, all that was needed was an MOU between the town and the developer, AMP in this case. And so we asked AMP what they expected. What was the expectation for documentation that a municipality would be operator of a facility? And as I mentioned to Becky today, I don't recall them saying what they told AMP, but I do know what they told us. And they said because they had never seen it before, they couldn't say exactly, but what they anticipated was that would have to be an operations and management agreement. So an MOU is sort of talking about intentionality, whereas the operations and maintenance agreement has to be specific. You have to do specific things, certain tasks, and you get specific compensation for those tasks. So, and it sounded much more like that was a contractual agreement. I know for my, just briefly, my own interpretation of that is that you actually need to have a project that's pretty firm, whether it's permitted or not. It has to at least be more than a concept, because you can't articulate specific activities and specific compensation unless you actually have a facility and a project in mind. So that was the big thing that we tried getting clarity on. And like I said, they have never seen one of these before. So they're just talking about what they would expect. There's no precedent here. And then in terms of clarifying what the granted exemptions and benefits are, so why, if you got this public entity status, what would a developer get out of it? And there's a couple of things that are, I think, really important to note. So the first one is they get exemption from siting, which is, what I had put in my memo to you guys a couple of weeks ago, that under the current guidelines, you're prohibited from building in priority habitat, core habitat, or critical natural landscapes. But if you become a public entity, you're allowed to because you get put into category 1. So they confirmed that that is the case. The other two things that are, I think, important to note. One is we asked about compensation. So it's an incentive program. Developers get money for doing this. And there's a queue. And so if you get public entity status, you get to jump to the front of the line. And if you're in the front of the line, the way it works is you get people at the front of the line get a higher rate of payment in terms of the incentive. So as you get farther back in the line, you get less guaranteed rate. So there's a financial benefit to jumping the line and getting in front. And if you're a public entity, you get to do that. The other part is that in order to normally apply for the SMART program, you have to have all your permitting in place and your interconnection paperwork done. If you're a public entity, you don't have to have your permitting in place. You can apply and you can get your rate and you can get guaranteed into the SMART program without having permitting in place. So it doesn't mean that the permitting doesn't have to happen, but you get the SMART guarantee and the money up front prior to any permitting. And, it dovetails with the siting because depending on where it's sited, it all sort of plays together. And then I think that's probably, I think that's probably it. I mean, I don't know, Rita or Becky, did I miss anything that was of note?
I guess what I would add, sorry, 1 second. You talked about the adder. You talked about the exceptions from land use restrictions. The looser deadlines for application are because what you just described, that you can, you don't have to have permits in place. You can get qualified first. You can get an an SOQ, a statement of qualification, without having your permitting in place, which is a huge deal for a developer, as you said. So what are the benefits being offered to the developer in the interests of the town? That was we didn't really get that question answered. I mean, well, the other way to say that is how are the interests of the town being met by this category? And that really remains unclear, because the town's interests can be met through the pilot, and they can be met potentially with other compensation. So the financial benefits are there, but we want to make sure that the permitting process goes ahead as normal. So if it allows if it allows the developers to, as a category 1, not to be concerned about the bio issues, it's more complicated for the town because concerns can be ignored. What they did make clear, like you said, was the SMART regulations pertain to the eligibility of the project. The SMART regulations are silent on the matter of local permitting. So I think one of the issues Michael brought up at the meeting, there's kind of this default impact on permitting that doesn't seem to be intended. And that would be waiving the bio issues that Michael listed earlier, which is a concern for the town. We asked DOR if they will work with the town to help us craft something that potentially would be workable. They were clear that they will not give legal advice, but in the end, they said they would help guide us and review potential drafts that we might come up with to find a path to make this work. And Rita brought up that the agreement does have to be negotiated. So what is the timeline? And this is the one point, Michael, you might have a different interpretation, but I understood from Rita's questioning that the timeline allows for the statement of qualifications to be approved without the permitting. And that's the trigger to make a municipal, the developer into a municipal entity. So it has this, so it can impact the permitting, because if you get the SOQ ahead and and becomes a public entity, basically it has those privileges that have financial benefit, but it also has the concerns about environmental concerns, that the siting doesn't have to go through the same process that it would if they weren't considered a category 1. So it's the timing. It can happen. I think, Michael, you said that you can't really have an agreement until every detail is hammered out, but theoretically you could, based on the number of units. So theoretically you could reach an agreement ahead, and then it's just how would anything be costed out? So it's theoretically possible, but I think it's problematic.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I mean, I would say, Becky, I don't disagree. It doesn't have to be fully permitted to have operations and maintenance contract, but at minimal, there has to be a proposal for a project put in, and there has to be enough progress in that people know what the siting is, the capacity is. There are a lot of details that you can't come to a contracted negotiated agreement on unless there's something to talk about. And so I don't think the town would want to sign a contract that was, vague because we're committing to at least 20 years. And if we actually hired an employee, we're committing to, retirement costs and all those things as well. So, I do think, the one thing I would say, and it's tricky, and I don't think DOER thought this through. They were very clear that they don't get into local zoning and permitting. So whatever project gets put forth, even if they're already granted public entity status and getting their incentives and can build anywhere that they want that a category 1 could build, or not build, they would still have to go through our permitting process. And that's just a really awkward kind of thing because they can build in environmentally sensitive places that the state doesn't want, and then they have to go through permitting. And that's just,
When you talked to them, did they have any rationale for why waiving certain environmental concerns? What were they thinking?
well, I think it's the
What's
first point.
rationale?
That was why my first question out of the gate was what their intent was.
Mhm.
So I think they're trying to promote municipally owned solar. And so, of course, it would be great for municipalities to have solar. We've talked about it here, but the capital costs are too large up front. So they were I think the idea was if a town comes up with a way of building municipal solar, we as the state will give them a little wiggle room because they're a town and, the town's going to treat itself differently in terms of permitting and, it has its own benefit, its own interest in mind if it's doing the project. I don't think they ever saw that, a private entity would say, here's a contract, you operate it, and now we're a public entity. It just wasn't the paradigm they were thinking of. So they were trying to help municipalities who wanted to build muni solar. And we're not building muni solar. We're building private solar with a contract. So
Could I ask a question,
Marion?
clarification? Becky, it sounded like what you were saying, and maybe I heard it wrong, that if a developer gained this public entity status through DOER, then for the purposes of our local zoning, it would now be a public project, not a private project. So it would be, the zoning would be by right. Because if it's a public project by our zoning, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, solar, town-owned, public solar, community solar is permitted by right. Isn't that correct? It doesn't go through a special permit review. Are you saying, Becky, that the special permit review process would not apply?
I would defer to Jeff or on that one.
It sounded like that's what you were saying, though. Is that what you meant?
I didn't mention the word by right. I wasn't thinking of the by right concept in what I was saying.
Okay. Well, you said it would be under different, it would change the zoning regulations.
What I was thinking of was as a category 1, the consideration of I apologize, the biosphere that
The
you're
biomap.
the biomaps and stuff you are less. I wasn't focusing on by right. I was more mentioning
Okay.
environmental concerns.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Miriam, they can, if they're public entity status, they're allowed to build in environmentally sensitive places, like with the biomap.
No, I understand that.
I know, and they still get the category 1. Though what's awkward is I don't think they become a public. They're not municipal. I mean,
Right.
it's not
Right.
because it's
Right.
ownership. It's not operations.
Right.
I mean, Jeff can chime in too, but my sense is just because the town gets a contract, it doesn't convert to a municipal project.
Okay,
way
that's
we
just
think
what
of
I
it.
thought I had heard. I'm sorry.
No, but I do think that it does convert to a municipal project.
It converts to a public entity status, but not a municipal project. They're different.
Okay,
If
so you're
I-
saying in terms of our own zoning. Okay, sorry.
I know Rita
Yeah.
wanted to jump in here and then Jeff.
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce a couple of things that from the meeting. And, the first is the requirement that AMP would have to And the town would have to enter into this operations and maintenance agreement in order to get the public entity status, and that there would have to be a lot of detail. And what we heard from DOER is that they won't know it. They won't know if that contract is sufficient for public entity status until they see it. So there's no guarantee, even if we do execute a contract, and that it would have to be pretty specific, and that my interpretation is that an MOU does not get them that status, that it does have to be a very detailed contract. The second thing I just want to reinforce is that my understanding was that their intent here with the public entity status was really to assist municipalities with public buildings, so that if they could use all of the power that was generated, so that's not the case in Shutesbury for our a few municipal buildings. And then the last thing, and I don't know if this was mentioned, but the public entity status, beyond not having to follow the biomap, they get this additional funding. So 4% adder if they get into category 1, if they get in early. So the earlier you get in, the more financially beneficial it is. But that there are also looser restrictions regarding application deadlines, so that when you get that status, you get more time, which is important to know.
Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I had this worry that by signing the MOU and entering into this relationship, that the project might resemble a private developer in municipal clothing and become a municipal facility or use under our zoning bylaw, which is permitted across the board in all districts. I don't think that would happen. Without belaboring it, looking at the definition of municipal facility in our zoning, it's clearly something that the town of Shutesbury is doing. Not, we're not mowing the grass there. We're doing it. It's our project. So that's a municipal facility. And also in the use table, where it says permitted across the board, municipal facility or use, but then in parentheses it says not listed elsewhere in this table. And of course, solar is listed elsewhere in this table. So I don't think it applies. I don't think this gets the developer out from under our local zoning. So
Are we aware, has AMP met with the DOER? Are we aware of any meetings?
They have not been able to secure a meeting. They were very jealous that we were able to get one. They have had email exchanges with questions, but at this point, maybe individual conversations, but they have not been able to get a meeting.
I mean, in some ways it would have been, and maybe somewhere down the line, it would be interesting to have a joint meeting between the DOER ourselves and to hear the questions, or to get a sense of where their thinking is.
Well,
Who's thinking? The DOER's thinking?
No, AMP.
Well, AMP's thinking.
And also for the DOER to sort of see in a larger way what this partnership, how this kind of partnership is impacted by their regulations. I guess that's what I'm saying.
well, Becky had asked if that could happen for this meeting, and I personally was very much against it. I thought we, as a municipality, needed to be able to talk to the so-called horse's mouth and find out from the state what they were thinking. There's points for negotiation and communication, that's more broad, but I think we needed to understand what the rules of the game were.
Was that your understanding from the planning board as well? I mean, I don't know. Was that something that the planning board had decided? Or that you
No,
had?
this all started because I emailed them questions to understand and they came back and said, we'd like to schedule a meeting. So I think between my emailing and we haven't had a planning board meeting.
So
I
were they,
think-
the planning board aware of this meeting happening?
Only after
Yeah,
it got
people-
scheduled. It wasn't intended to be a meeting. I figured I'd at best get an email response.
I just want to go back to one thing. Michael, you said that I had asked for AMP to be in the meeting. It was actually.
No, you asked me, I said.
No, that I asked you for AMP to be in the meeting. All I was clarifying was I had heard from Coles, from Shane asked if he and Tom Reedy, yeah, that's his name, their attorney, could be in the meeting. And that's who was, and I told them no, because you had set it up just for a conversation of town officials.
Okay. I mean, it would have been interesting to have had Coles there as well, you know, hearing this information, because there may be things that they're not aware of as they're moving forward in this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Everybody's struggling to get a firm picture of what is allowable and what is not, because the assumption that Evan Turner made that an MOU as a form of a contract would be allowable unless onerous to the town as a starting point has been pretty soundly denied. And
Yeah.
what our conversations were with DOER. Do you agree, Rita and Michael? That the
Yes.
MOU is not?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's
Fine.
an operations and maintenance agreement. And I don't agree, April. I mean, I think it was better for the town to first have this conversation with DOER. I mean, it is about, you know, understanding what the SMART program is and what, how our doing any kind of MOU or what the meaning is. So I think it would not have been as productive, and we didn't have a lot of time. I mean, they scheduled the meeting for half an hour. We got 45 minutes, and at that, there were a lot of people in the room.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It would have been more, a lot more questions that we wouldn't have gotten to them all.
yeah,
Yeah.
But at
because
some
we wanted
point-
to get our questions answered
Yeah.
rather
No,
than
I-
get their questions answered.
No, I get that. It's unfortunate. I mean, it would be nice for them to hear these responses. I guess that's part of what I'm coming
Well,
back
it
to.
might be, the select board might want to think about having a Coles AMP select board, planning board meeting at some point. Or if it's just about the MOU, it's an odd thing because the I'm sorry, the operations and management agreement.
Right.
That agreement does impact zoning in the end. So in the permitting process. So the planning board is also, it impacts their picture as
Right.
well. So I think it might be a good idea to do all that. But the next meeting that's set up is for April 5th, next Monday, to talk with the planning board in depth about the bylaw with Donna McNichols. So-
Okay.
Can I just add one other thing, just, and, you know, based on what Becky was just saying? I mean, since I think we're all in agreement that there needs to be an operations and maintenance agreement that's contractual and look and feel,
Mhm.
that it doesn't feel appropriate for the select board to get involved in any discussions until there's at least a proposal submitted. There's nothing submitted. So if one assumes that you have to have a detailed conversation, I think the answer to AMP and to Coles is when you're ready to submit something to the town will receive it. We will begin the process, and somewhere along that lines, things will get clarified enough that the select board can have a conversation about, you know, what it is, how big is the project, and all that kind of stuff. But until right now, there's nothing submitted, so there is no project, and it's preemptive. And I think, you know, it's not our job to help them come up with development ideas. Their first step is to actually submit a project that we can respond to.
I think Michael, they have submitted a memorandum of understanding that outlines the scope of work. And it's raised a lot of questions. And I think the select board has to be knowledgeable about the program to be able to think about whatever they do propose in the future. But this is not the first time you suggest the select board should stand down. And I'm just saying that the select board is responsible to be knowledgeable about this project and talk and open session with whoever they think will help benefit the understanding for the whole public.
Mhm.
I don't disagree with the understanding, and I think that was the intent of my email, to actually get fact, so that we were getting stuff from the state as opposed to Evan. I think that was my intent of getting the information. But what I'm saying is that we can't have, you can't go into negotiations about something that hasn't been proposed. And so at minimum, there has to be a project proposed before anything starts. That's all I'm saying.
But there is an MOU that's been given to the select board by AMP. That is on the table.
But
That
there's
does exist.
no projects.
No projects, but there is an MOU.
Miriam,
And there are 5 sites.
Yeah, I just had a question talking about the April 5th meeting, because I think we sent an email to the select board, and I don't know if we'd gotten a response back. The Historical Commission wanted a few minutes at that meeting to discuss our report on the solar bylaw. And I don't know if that's been fit into the agenda or not. Be nice to know.
And you
Since
wanted
the-
to present to the planning board and the select board. so
Yeah,
it's-
because the bylaw specifically creates a statutory role for the Historical Commission. So we have produced a report on it, and we wanted to present that to the 2 other boards.
um, I wonder, because we were going in just to talk about the bylaw, so,
Well, that's what this was about.
right,
There's 2 whole paragraphs of the bylaw that deal with our wheelhouse.
Right.
I think it looks like we're going to have a complicated agenda talking to Donna. So I'm just not certain on how long things are going to take. So, and I haven't had, the select board hasn't talked about it, your email yet. So I don't know what the answer is, Miriam,
yeah.
at this moment.
Could I suggest that whether the Historical Commission talks or not, at least that they get invited to the
We be
meeting
there?
to actually be in session, so that if there is room to talk about it, because I believe there's intersection with the bylaws, but it seems like a wasted opportunity if at least they're not convened.
I think that's, I think that's okay, yeah. Whether or not we talk at depth about what was submitted at this point, not knowing where the conversation will go with the, on Monday. I think that's okay. What do the Frida or April or Becky, or does anyone else have
Yeah, I
anything?
mean, I don't have any objection to carving out some time, but obviously this is going to be a long meeting, so I
Right.
would want to restrict it.
Yes, I agree. You know, so calm. You know, if you're in session, that would be that would be what I would suggest. But there's no guarantee how much time, if any, that we'll have available.
Okay.
Does
Great,
that make
thanks.
sense to you guys, Rita and Melissa?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know where the conversation might go with that meeting, you know, so I don't want to say yes and then have it not gotten to, right? Like,
Right.
and
And
okay, go ahead, Becky.
sorry, no, it just might be that we're really trying to figure out what's going on in this meeting. And I think the report is something that I don't know how many of us will have had a chance to read before the meeting. And it might be better to have, you know, just focus on that at its own meeting. I don't know.
Right.
Well, I know that this issue was brought up before when you were first discussing having a meeting about the bylaw. There was mention of the paragraphs that dealt with historical preservation.
Mhm.
So I would think that if that's going to be discussed in any way at the Monday meeting, it would be important to have the historical commission present and
Yeah.
for us to be able to respond.
That's-
That isn't, if those
I
aren't
agree.
the things you're talking about,
Yeah.
then I would say no, but
No, I think that is good. I just don't know how the actual report that you put together, how much attention the select board will be able to give to that at this meeting.
Right,
Historical commission should be at the meeting.
So come.
okay.
yeah, so do come.
And you'll
Yeah.
want to post the meeting for 5:30.
Okay. I will do that.
And you, Miriam, you emailed this to the planning board and select board and others,
Yeah.
right?
We
Okay,
have.
good.
Yeah, you do.
So we all have it, which is great. Okay.
Actually, I couldn't get into it through the email, but I understand it's posted on the website now.
It is, it's on our website. You can just download it from there.
Yeah, it looked like my email address didn't have permission.
Yeah, because it wasn't Gmail.
No,
That's okay. I don't know, but go ahead and you can just download it from our homepage.
Okay. Oh, I've moved myself off of stuff. Hold on one second. There we go. Was there any other information or discussion about the DOR meeting? I know that, Michael, your summary and some of Becky's notes will go up online. Are you okay with that in the form that you sent it? Did you want to have moments to edit? And then I know Becky
Oh,
and Rita, we're gonna.
That would
work
be
on-
great.
on
I'd
that one.
appreciate
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Thanks.
So we have your permission
Mhm.
if needed.
Oh,
Okay.
wholeheartedly.
Okay. And Becky, I know I asked you this, so we should vote on it to go on the online to make it official?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, do I hear a motion to put the meeting notes from Michael, Becky and Rita online for the DOR meeting? DOER, I'm sorry.
So moved.
And I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Carol, I.
Stein, I.
McKeith O'Neill, aye. Okay, perfect. Moving on to the highway superintendent contract. We are in need of a select board representative on that negotiation committee, I'm sorry. Becky, do you want to give us a heads up or a little more information on what you have so far, if anything, or you just want us to decide?
I need so Tim is going to be available for another year. So that's a relief. He won't be ending in September, but hopefully a year from September will be his final date before he retires. So I need a representative for that negotiation from the select board.
And can you just outline sort of what that commitment is? Because I haven't done this before.
Okay.
Typically,
One or two meetings, maybe one, two, three, or three meetings, maybe.
okay.
Maybe just one.
And when does it commence? How soon?
We need
Right
to-
now.
before-
I'm going out of town, so.
It would be you, town administrator, somebody from the FinCom, somebody from Personnel
Personnel.
Board, and
Okay.
Tim, and you'll review his contract.
Okay.
And
So
I've had it the last two cycles, and yeah,
Pretty straightforward.
yeah.
I'd be willing to do it. It's just, I'm away with family and I want to really be very protective of that time.
Yeah.
So I really wouldn't want to do it next week. If it has to be done next week or any time between the 2nd and the 11th,
No,
I've
that's
already-
fine. I'll
committed.
schedule it for after the 11th.
Okay. So I'm willing to do it.
Well, thank
Great,
you.
thank you, Rita. Also, what has come up, we'll be looking at negotiating with the police union, and I need a select board rep for that as well. Did we already, was Melissa already
I
elected?
volunteered, well, I don't know what we had for conversations, but I had done it the last time and I volunteered to go through it again. That one's a much more lengthy one usually. I remember last time it was like 9 or 10 meetings.
Yeah, it was, hopefully won't be that long this time. I don't think we have enough time to go that long.
I hope not. No. No, but I did it last time and I know, and it's, it's a maybe helpful to be familiar with the current contract on that one.
Yeah, because we're gonna have a brand new representative from the Teamsters Union. So it'll be good to have more people in the room that are familiar with the contract. So that'll be helpful. And I have Melody from the
Melody.
Finance Committee is on that group, and Bob Groves from Finance. Melody is actually the Personnel Board
Personnel.
representative. Great, thank you so much. This is Rita.
Is there any other contracts up that we need to set up now? Or we can wait?
I think that'll, at this time, that'll do
Get
it.
these two, okay, get these two going. All right.
That'll get us through the year. The police chief contract is, there isn't an active.
There's not one. And the fire, we're not doing the fire.
The fire chief's last contract had an automatic 1-year extension in it. If, so that has happened, has been triggered. So he's going to retire a year from June 30th.
I think that was the doorbell, Becky.
That's the doorbell. I'm gonna go.
Oh my goodness.
So it looks like we're looking at retirement of our highway superintendent and fire chief,
At the same time.
June 30th,
Around the time.
2022. Good luck.
Thanks, April.
I mean,
Nice, real nice.
no, we'll get through it. We'll get through it. It's interesting. I mean, over the years, it seemed like people left and it's like nobody could ever replace that person. And then
They
we
did.
move on. They did.
Yep.
I have to say, I will miss Tim a lot.
Yeah.
He's made Montague Road so smooth right now. It's like, oh, relatively.
Relatively. Wow. Yeah. I went over Baker yesterday. It's a little muddy still in a few places. My car shows it. Well, yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Melissa, I have
You know,
another
Yep.
meeting. I was just checking. I don't recall if there was anything else on tonight's agenda.
The only thing I can see is the Council on Aging, and Becky's running back now. I was waiting for
Oh,
her to
and
get.
could we vote
Yep.
to approve or not approve the annual report so that
Oh, yes.
Linda
I
can
read
get
through
that
it. It was
done.
great, April. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
It's not
Okay,
like
I
I-
move that we approve the
Annual
annual
report for
I'll
select board.
second that. I'll second that.
You'll second. Okay. All in
Okay.
favor?
Farrell, I.
Stein, aye.
Thank you, Sonia. And then the only thing we're on to right now is the contract. Becky, I see the Council on Aging contract update on SAC. Rita has another meeting, so we're going to cruise through these things. You're muted.
You're on mute.
Sorry, it's the state contract. It's $6,000. I think it was emailed out probably a couple meetings ago, but it hadn't been dealt with.
Okay, so do we
It's
need
the
to vote on
email
it?
Contract for $6,000.
Do I hear a motion to sign the Council on Aging contract with the state for $6,000?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Farrell, I.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. The SAC update.
Oh, wait.
Nope.
Just that, the Council on Aging EOEA grant contract, Melissa, that is all yours. And
Yep.
so there's a folder in your box
Okay,
that says COA grant on it.
I'll sign it before I leave tonight.
Thanks.
And the election party letters are also in her box.
Are they?
All right, do you want me to do the athletic club? now?
Yes, real quick, if you can.
Okay, all right, so a couple weeks ago, the SAC happily received their license renewal from ABCC after the reconsideration and the need for, some corrections and the Corey authorizations. And then the SAC at their recent meeting voted a change of manager. So Mark Oshevsky is going to be the new manager, and they've submitted all the required documents, which is a manager application, Corey authorization, vote of the SAC, and proof of citizenship, and then they have to pay a fee. So they've all that set. You as the local licensing authority need to sign a new LLA certificate, which I sent you out with the minutes. And so that's what you have to vote on, is to vote to approve the Shutesbury Athletic Club change of manager to Mark Oshevsky.
So I will move that.
Okay.
Okay,
And I
Second?
second.
okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Farrell, I.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, I. Linda, that's all three of us, right?
That is, if,
Okay.
at least two of you, and if you can do it sometime this week, that would be really great. And then I pick it up early next week and get it out to ABCC.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And the election party letters, Becky, you said are in our box?
I believe they are.
And, just me again, the SAC document is in a kind of reddish pink folder.
Thank you.
No, highlighted.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the election party letters are printed and in our box to sign.
I believe they are. I'll
Okay.
double check right after the meeting, but I think so.
Do I hear a motion to sign the letters for the town committees for Republican and Democrat election party
So
parties?
moved. So moved.
Okay, all
Second.
right. All right, all in favor?
Farrell, I.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. The animal control officer, Becky, you'll have to fill me in on this. This is
so-
Nancy.
Annually, the select board reappoints Nancy Long as the animal control officer. It's an unusual timing and it needs to be done by the end of March. So we couldn't be any tighter on the deadline, but that is the request. And the document is in the box.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to appoint or reappoint Nancy Long as our animal control officer?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Farrell, I.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. And we have the Cultural Council grant for review and signing. And that's just the open-ended one, right? The one that doesn't have an amount attached to it, or maybe there is, I'm sorry, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
there is an amount.
There is, okay.
Sorry.
That's
Linda-
okay, that's fine.
Linda, did you have that one printed out or is that still
I
online?
don't, but I have it pretty close at hand. Let's see.
We're doing a lot of housekeeping today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
$4,500.
Thank you for adding it all in there.
$4,500.
For 4,900.
Okay, great.
49.
49, yeah.
All right, do I hear a motion to review and sign the Cultural Council grant for $4,900?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Farrell, I.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Is that it?
There's just a bit The resignation came through for Sal Florinina from the
yeah.
Recycling and Solid Waste Committee.
Yep, so we have to vote to, yeah,
Except for
yeah,
resignation.
accept her resignation. Yep. Do
Yeah.
I hear a motion to accept Giselle's resignation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Yes.
All in favor?
I'll beat you out.
All in favor?
Farrell, I.
Stein, aye.
Maurice O'Neill, aye.
The fun of
Okay.
Zoom.
Zoom.
Minutes,
Oh. From which we've got
3/4 and 3/16.
So I'll move to accept the minutes from 3/4/21.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Farrell, I.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
And I'll move to accept the minutes from March 16th.
Second.
Okay. One quick question. Linda, did you get that other edit I sent to you?
Did,
Okay,
yes, I
perfect.
switched
All
the like for
Likely to lightly.
likely
Yeah,
for lightly, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
okay. Michael,
So I just want to revisit my request from the very beginning of the meeting that because I think the discussion about Don and Miriam and I should have been an executive session. I think you should not approve these minutes and you should consider, or at least consult with Donna, because I think it was inappropriate to be in public session.
Rita and April, how do you feel about holding these and maybe having Becky consult with Donna?
I'm fine
Or-
with that.
You're fine with that? Okay, we'll hold
Sure.
them and Becky, will
Okay.
you just check with Donna?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Michael. Okay, I think that's everything on our agenda. Becky, was there anything else? Rita, what time's your meeting?
Well, it started at 6:30. I'm going late.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, well, why don't we
It's okay.
adjourn our meeting? I'm sorry. Why don't we adjourn our meeting and sign everything? So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I'll
Okay.
second.
All right, all in favor?
Farrell, I.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Okay, good night.